This is every 6-star read I've ever had. All right, boys, no script. We're absolutely raw dogging this recording. Let's start off with our honorable mentions. And by mentions, I mean a single one. And by single one, I mean 2. All right, raw dogging, like, not off to a good start. First, we have Tress of the Emerald Sea by Brandon Sanderson. Look at this thing. Look how beautiful. I'm not gonna lie, this special edition cover has definitely played into my 6-star rating. Is that allowed? No. Did I do it? Yes. Are you gonna do anything about it? No. It's the ultimate adult fairy tale. Dare I say, the ultimate fairy tale in general. It's just so whimsical. This is the coziest cozy you could possibly get whilst knocking off all the things that I love. The main character's ingenuity is so fun. The world is so fun. The magic is so fun. There is no way you can go wrong with this book. Let me just like set the scene real fast, okay? Imagine yourself in the wintertime. It's cold outside. You're out on the porch. It's like 2 degrees outside, but it's not snowing. It didn't snow. It's just really cold. There's a fire pit that you're sitting next to and it's going, it's raging. There's a little space heater kind of far behind you, warming your back. You're under a blanket and you're just reading this book. This is what you want, okay? This is the ideal scenario to read this masterpiece. There are other books in cozy fantasy. I don't even know if I would technically call this fantasy, but they don't reach the cozy levels that this book reaches. Reverse Princess Bride is like aura. What a goated concept that I cannot believe hasn't been done before. But now that I'm saying out loud, that sounds like a really ignorant thing to say. So it probably has been done before, but it has to go to Tress. Easy honorable mention. Goated. Do you like my little thing to cover the books so they're not spoiled? King of the Pirates right here. Future King of the Pirates. Our next honorable mention is Babel by R.F. Kuang. What can I say about this, gamers? The only reason why it's an honorable mention and not a 6-star. By the way, honorable mentions have to be better than perfect. The honorable mentions are above 5 stars, but below 6 stars. 5.5. 5.5 over there for Tress. That's just, you know, to help you know. So these are still better than perfect. They're just not like Omega better than perfect. Anyways, RF Kuang. If this was a high fantasy, I would have maybe put it higher. But at the same time, now that I'm saying that out loud, I'm telling you guys, raw dogging this, absolutely no script. It probably would not have worked anywhere near as well. Maybe it would have, but I don't see it working as well if it's not set in our world. I feel like that really hits home, really drives the punch that R.F. Kuang is trying to say about colonialism, imperialism, capitalism, which I guess negates what I said about it should have been high fantasy. Because now that I'm thinking about it, it should not have. This book follows a young young man named Robin, who was freaking yoinked from his home in China by this old British white dude when he was a baby, taken to England, raised there to basically be white and forego all of his minority aspects. And he goes through this journey of realizing what that colonialism is, having 2 conflicting identities, and how bad the system is, and does this system require violence to change it. He goes to a school, as you've probably heard of it, maybe it's called Oxford in the United Kingdom. I think it's in London, don't quote me on that. And in it, he studies the magic of this world. You try and help enrich the colonizers, the British, the white people, to make them more money, essentially. Give them more power and influence in the world. And he's like, wow, this seems really shitty. This also takes place during the time period when the British just like freaking shot up China with a crazy amount of freaking opium. Amazing themes and amazing criticisms of all the systems that I just mentioned: capitalism, colonialism, imperialism. God tier, honorable mention, 5.5. Why'd you not give it a 6-star? Just because I didn't, okay? Vibes. Now that our honorable mentions are over, starting off our list with our 6-star books is The Fires of Vengeance by Evan Winter. It is book 2 in the Burning series. I have book 1, but it's currently being lent out to a friend. And when I say lent out to a friend, I mean he has not read it and he's planning on giving it back without reading it. Imagine that. I would say that maybe Babel is objectively a better book than The Fires of Vengeance. But like, this is one of those books where it's just so hype. The highs are so high that it almost doesn't matter. The rest of the flaws, who gives a shit? They aren't even there, bro. Tao, my freaking goat. Where do I even begin, bro? Where do I even begin? I'm not sure that I freaking can. But let's just say if I have a goat, it's a god tier book. That's how you know. If I say the words, That's my go. It's a god tier book. This series is a African inspired high fantasy. There are two classes of people. It's been a freaking minute, so I can't exactly remember the names, but they're like the bigger guys, you know, they're kind of like the golds in Red Rising. Bigger, stronger, usually more attractive, I think. And then there's like everybody else. And our main character, Tao, he's like short as shit, but he just like plows through like those freaking giants, everybody in the freaking way. He's just an absolute giga hoss, dual wielding two swords, constantly feeling pain. This is my goat, dude. He's such a freaking god. The amount of torture and awful training that he puts himself through just to be a freaking hoss is absolutely insane. Total revenge story. He's just an absolute badass. The Fires of Vengeance, book 2 specifically, absolute banger. I'm so ready for book 3. It's coming out this year, and I'm about to devour the frick out of that shit. Are you liking this video? Don't scroll away. Make sure you check out my link tree in the description below, and check out the sponsor. That will help me out a lot if you choose to contribute. Back to the video. The next book we have is The Children of Time by Adrian Tchaikovsky. Oh boy, oh boy. This is one of the books where you just don't even know how to begin to describe it. Let's see if I can do a good job. Like I said, I'm raw dogging this, no script. Let's see how consumable what I'm about to say is. The story takes place many years into the future. Humanity has voted to send life onto different terraformed planets and see how this new life evolves over time when they check on it again after cryosleep on a specific planet that the book is focusing on. There is a scientist lady, and her goal is to send a bunch of freaking monkeys down to the planet, and on their way down, inject them with this like super freaking virus that lets them become extra smart as they pass on their genes. So each generation is like significantly smarter than the next. But humans are against that idea. So what do? They sabotage the whole thing. They blow up the spaceship the scientist is in. She escapes an escape pod and hovers around the planet for a bajillion years. The monkeys die in transit, but the vial of the virus escapes the landing, crashes onto the planet, and infects some spiders that were in the hold, that were in the thing that held the monkeys. It follows generations of spiders progressively becoming more and more intelligent, more sentient, and it's absolutely insane. The next perspective is a bunch of humans who, a bajillion years after the scientist woman escapes and the whole plan comes crashing down, humanity went to war, nuked themselves to shit, and barely rebuilt themselves, and then they realized, wow, we cannot stay here. They sent the last remaining remnants out into the stars to find a new place. The humans put themselves in cryo sleep and travel around the universe. Now on their trip, they experience much infighting. Crew members sometimes are up and awake for dozens of years while some others are still asleep. So there are a lot of time jumping and a lot of you don't know what's going to happen the next time our main character wakes up. It's a very stressful experience, but it is so good. The anxiety that is just constantly being induced. Character personalities are insane. Everybody's going crazy and they have to deal with all this while trying to find a place to live. God tier characters, God tier character interactions. It's just so good. And the spiders are the best part, guys. They're just so interesting. The world building's insane. The way they come up with culture, God tier, absolutely God tier, 6-star for sure. The next two books, I know why, guys. What can I say? They just hit. Okay, they just hit. These are my two favorite books from the Stormlight Archive by Brandon Sanderson. He's on here twice, I guess technically 3 times because I'm holding up 2 books. They are The Wave Kings and Rhythm of War. This is books 1 and 4 in the Stormlight Archive. If you ask anybody like besides me or what their least favorite book is in the Stormlight Archive, they're gonna say Rhythm of War or Wind and Truth. For me, it's Words of Radiance. Hot take. I know. Probably an extremely hot take, but these books, bro, the journey that our main character Kaladin goes on mental health wise begins here, has its first peak here, has its second peak and climax here. These books are my 6-star reads purely because of the mental health journey of this character, which is something that I relate to heavily. My hot take, which is a hot take, by the way, I just want to throw that out there. Like, generally speaking, these books will go down in history as one of the greatest to ever do it. Somehow. They're not at that level yet. Some people don't have the faith that they will eventually get up there to Tolkien level. But you know what? I say, given enough time, given enough decades, these will be so legendary. The pacing? Yeah, I like the pacing. What about it? I think it's amazing. I think these books could be longer. The magic, the characters, you're just so attached to them all. The character arcs, the mental health, the world building. This series has it all. If I had to pick one I liked more, it'd be Rhythm of War though. But these are both 6-star reads, God tier level books. I'm sorry, some people might have a problem with that, but they're still not the top of the top. But this next book that I'm about to show you is not higher than these personally for me. Even though there is a 6-star read, I probably should have started with this book first, but I didn't. This next 6-star read, a decent chunk of you will be able to tell what it is based purely on this black cover and sprayed edges. Blood Over Brighthaven by ML Wong. 6-star read, guys. And I want to say 6-star read for many of the same reasons that Babel was an honorable mention, 5.5-star read. Oh, what can I say? Themes on racism, misogyny, how you can be experiencing either one of those and still do the other one to somebody else. Like somebody can be being racist to me for being Hispanic, and then I could go and still freaking degrade a woman. You know what I mean? It's not that all victims are the same. Victims still can perpetuate some bad thing and victimize other people. And that's something that is very interesting to me. The things that this book made me feel when I was reading about our main character going through a bunch of or having to deal with a bunch of misogyny, I actually wanted to DNF this because this made me vilely uncomfortable. I was way more comfortable reading racism, maybe because I've experienced it before, so it's not that big of a deal. I mean, it is, but I'm more used to it than I am used to reading or experiencing. I don't experience misogyny at all, I think, from the perspective of women. And so I'm just so unused to that. It made me so uncomfortable because I almost closed this book and didn't want to finish because of how uncomfortable it made me. And I was like, okay, I almost closed this book because misogyny made me uncomfortable. Imagine the lengths that I will go to, or how easy it is for me to ignore misogyny in real life. It was a real eye-opener, unfortunately for me, but I'm still at the same time glad it happened. No, fortunately for me. This book takes place in a domed city called Tyrion, and in Tyrion there are mages. There are classes of mages, and they go all the way up to Archmage. Right below Archmage is a High Mage, and no woman has ever achieved the rank of a High Mage until today. Now, outside of the domed city of Tyrion, there exist these groups, these tribes of people native to this land that the Tyranish refer to generally as the Quen, kind of like the way that we would refer to any person from any of the Native American tribes as just Native American, or probably more like we used to call them Indians, maybe, because it's a little bit more racist. And I feel like the Quen, just generalizing, is very racist, but it's a general term for very many different groups of people. Our main character, Siona, befriends one of the Quen named Tomil, but he's gone through a lot of shit in his life, a lot of trauma, because he used to live outside of the domed city of Tyrion. And when he came in, he had to cross a lake where he watched basically all of his family, all of his friends die from this thing called blight. And nobody knows what the hell blight is. They assume it's some evil magic or something like that, and it kills basically everything it touches. It's really gross. But our main character, Siona, through the process of her becoming a High Mage and improving and working on projects, he has to learn to deal with really bad systemic problems of living in Tyrion and being a part of academia in this really prestigious university, and what the potential cost of the magic she has studied all her life is. And finally, my #1 series of all time. Both books that I've read so far in this series have been 6-star books. It is the Locked Tomb series by Tamsin Muir. I never know if I'm saying her name right, but I really hope I am. I hope somebody can correct me if I'm wrong. God tier words, God tier freaking plot, God tier world building, God tier magics, God tier swords, God tier baddies. These books are just so different from each other in terms of the plot. So I'm not going to describe the plot of Harrow because I just cannot. It would massively spoil it. In the world of the Locked Tomb, there is this space empire that is made up of 9 houses. Our main character, Gideon, belongs to the 9th house. She becomes the Cavalier of the 9th house. So every house has an heir, and every heir has a cavalier. Gideon becomes the heir to Harrow. Harrow Hark, known to Jesmus, the reverend daughter, heir of the 9th house. Now, the emperor has decided that all of his bodyguards, his special elite called lictors, who have been alive for 10,000 years, just like him, are dying off. There are not enough of them, so he needs to replace them. He sends for all the heirs and cavaliers of the 9 houses to meet up at his house, the first house, his mansion, and take tests to become his potential new lictors. So Harrow, Gideon, and the other couples of the separate houses meet at the mansion of the first. They're dropped there with no instructions on how to pass the tests to become lictor. So it is them exploring this mansion and figuring out what the hell they need to do. Oh, and all the heirs are necromancers. Doesn't really explain it so well, but I'm telling you guys, this is my favorite series of all time. This series beat out the Stormlight Archive. Do you know how hard it is for a series to beat out the Stormlight Archive for a dude, bro? Practically impossible. Spoiler. God tier book, 7 out of 10. And that's it. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate it. Let me know how you enjoyed this raw dog video. Absolutely no script in it. Make sure you check out all my socials down below, and I'll see you in the next video.